Hello, I'm Agne Linge, a host of L2Show, and today we're talking to Aaron, the co-host of Crypto 101 podcast. Hello, Aaron.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for your time as well. Today we're in Austin, Texas, attending Consensus 2022. Everyone is feeling super bullish, feeling the heat. Both physically it's super hot here. But let's talk about crypto. Is crypto still hot today? What do you think?
Absolutely. So I'm here in Consensus doing interviews with lots and lots of founders. I've talked to about 20 of them so far. Not one of them has a negative thing to say. The last bear market in 2018, 2019, I went to a crypto conference that had more speakers than guests. There was only 6 people in the audience at CryptoCon 2018 in San Diego. Today here in Consensus, there must be about 20,000 people, many of which are builders in this space, founders, and a lot of new investors. I've seen more name badges with family offices than I've ever seen in my entire life. So not only is institutional adoption here, but 2021 was only the first wave. The second wave is buying in right now.
Right. Yes, I've noticed actually the badges of Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan's and the likes here. Your personal view on crypto, do you think we are retail more adoption? We focus on institutional adoption. What's going on right now? We have some crashes. We have a Luna story. We have regulations, all the sensitive topics. But where do you think we are right now?
I think we're in an accumulation phase. Mm-hmm. I look at everything in terms of Wyckoff market cycles. I think that's the only real signal amongst a giant sea of noise. And in an accumulation phase, there's going to be 2 parts of it. The first part is they're going to try and scare you out with things like hacks, attacks, bad news, and then they're going to try and wear you out with a whole lot of nothing. You're going to see price go sideways, barely moving, and people are going to say, what happened to the crypto volatility? I've been holding on to this thing that I bought in and it hasn't moved in months. What's going on? Is crypto dead? Well, there's actually a website that tracks how many times the news has declared Bitcoin dead. And they've been wrong over 300 times, and they're going to be wrong 300 more times. So what this phase is for building, for catching your breath after the madness of 2021, and having a chance to say, okay, what is new and coming out? Because this space moves so fast. Holding tokens from 2017 may not be relevant at all in 2023 or 2024. There's going to be something better, new, more well capitalized, better connected to the real world. And I think that's what we're seeing right now is Web3 crypto blockchain was its own universe up until now. And now the rest of the world, the traditional world, in commercial, institutional, government is all coming in and saying, we want to be part of this. We don't want to be enemies anymore. We want to figure out how to work together to use this amazing technology to build a better world. Of course, there are some people that want to exploit this, that still want to shut it down by coming from the inside. But the good thing is these hardened, proven systems are going to survive every kind of attack, whether it's regulatory, technical, user, spam attacks. And only the hardened systems are going to survive. So while it is devastating to see some systems go down or go offline or get hacked and stuff like that, everything out there right now is just a test net for the future. And we have to have only the strongest survive. As brutal and painful as it is to have some things go to zero, the main goal here is not to get rich. A lot of people will get rich in the process. But the main goal is financial inclusion for the entire world and creating opportunities where the current banking system has failed over half of humankind.
Right. So what you mentioned is 2 things. So first of all, people are expecting that things will go up in price, but we're building here a technology. We're building here a financial platform, a payment platform, the new ways of engaging with each other. So in reality, it will have nothing to do with the price. It just happens that, the blockchain system does have tokens, and people in the past have made money. So everyone that's getting into crypto, and new people, they think, okay, well, me getting into crypto buying some tokens and expecting that they go up. But in fact, we're building the whole new financial system here.
Yes,
right?
with brand new economic models for streaming data and getting paid by the second for royalties as people use your created products all over the world. So there's all kinds of amazing new things coming up and new ways of thinking about money. Because what is money at the very core? It is stored energy. I get it for using my time and energy for something. I give it to you for using your time and energy or something. And Bitcoin is literally stored energy. That's the best way to think of it. It's not some kind of dark net money or some really hard thing to understand. It's just a digital store of energy. So when you have that as a concept and enough people understand that you can do all kinds of things in the world that weren't possible before. I mean, you look at just the energy markets now and have people trade it and manipulate it, and it's very locked down and siloed under just a few giant world governments. To just intermediate powers like that is revolutionary for humankind.
Of course. We have had revolutions before in the past, in the history of the mankind, and they did not happen in 1 year, 2 years. It takes sometimes a century, most often 20, 30, 50 years. So we are in the process, as you said. I would like to touch base upon technology. So are you a decentralized maxi, or you believe that we can do half-half? There's a necessity for some centralization, maybe a helping hand, someone to call as well, because, blockchain technology from its essence should be totally decentralized and you should own your keys, etc. But it's not maybe possible always.
Well, decentralization is a gradient. While people talk about things being decentralized, maybe it's only 60%, 70%. Even Bitcoin itself is not 100% decentralized. There's still somebody with the password to the GitHub account where the Bitcoin code is stored and updated, and there's maintainers of that code. And if they were to do something to change the code, they have to get all the big miners and influencers and everyone in the space to agree this is a good change. Otherwise, they can simply reject those changes or go somewhere else. But ultimately, there is still one person or one company that maintains this stuff. So that's a small level of centralization, even in Bitcoin. And that's okay. To be honest, we can't rely entirely on code and machines. The human heart has to be what drives humanity forward. And if there's no one left with a good heart, no amount of code or AI is going to save us. So we have to use our investment tools and our wisdom to empower the right individuals to be the next politicians, presidents, and influencers and consortium chairmen of the future. It can't just be people that are looking to exploit more wealth for themselves. It has to be people in positions of servitude that understand a much bigger picture for humankind.
Okay, and so what about the adoption of the technology itself? Do you think we need some intermediaries once again to help people to access the blockchain technology and all the payments, etc., that they offer? Meaning, one could use MetaMask, etc., do all the process, private keys, or do we still need some intermediary like a banks before?
I think there's no one fit solution for everybody. At the end of the day, every single business, even blockchain, is a people business. Not everyone should have to have technical understanding of how code audits work and actually look through this stuff themselves. We need some people that we can trust to digest this information and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And they have to have a long proven track record of being trusted. So there are going to be intermediaries, there are going to be some middlemen. Maybe we can cut out some, but the opportunity is the more you're willing to educate yourself, the more time you're willing to spend, the more money you're going to save. So there is a fair trade-off there. And if you don't want to, you shouldn't be left out.
Right. Okay. We're here on a Layer 2 show. What are your thoughts of Layer 2? What is Layer 2 for you? What's the meaning?
Layer 2 to me is a caching system. And what I mean by that is when you're looking from a technical perspective at a computer processor, it's got all of its ability to say, okay, I can compute this much per second, but it has kind of like an attention span. It can say, I'm only aware of so much at one time. So it's kind of like a filtering system into it. And that's kind of what I think of Layer 2 as. It's kind of like a cache where it's saying, I can pay attention to all this stuff at once, and then it can finally settle on a layer one once we have transaction finality. So, for example, if we have a poker game going on chain, and we're going to be exchanging hands, and the pot is going to change all the time, and the amounts of our chips are going to change, 1,000 times over the course of that tournament. We don't need all that to settle. Like, who cares? That can all be done on layer two, and it's very important. But then when the final purse winnings are handed out, that can be finally settled on layer one later.
Yes, indeed. So you can do all the transactions, and not necessarily we need to compete for the block space for all the transactions like coffee and
Exactly.
et
Yeah, just the important stuff.
Right. People were expecting layer twos to take off because obviously Ethereum is way too expensive, it's congested. We're competing for block spaces, and now when layer twos are taking off, so an individual or anyone that is doing a transaction on Ethereum is competing for block space with all these layer twos. Do you think the layer twos might push out normal people transactions from layer one?
I think there's going to be a lot of apps that are built natively on layer two, and not all of them need a layer one. Again, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And I think that's a great thing about layer twos is they can be specialized for certain things, whether it's gaming, gambling, privacy. They can be all these other layers that eventually settle over on the layer one or not. A lot of these layer twos now are building their own ecosystems where they're self-contained, and they have the option to use that layer one when necessary, but not all the time. So it's been a really interesting evolution just from when things like Matic hit the market, 2019 or whatever it was, and now there's so many others, and each of them has their own little unique nuance, whether it's a certain kind of privacy technology or throughput technology or a market sector focus. So I'm really happy to see just the diversity that's coming out in the layer two space to give more builders the tools they need to have a successful Web3 application.
Right. So layer twos, they are Ethereum native. That's the layer twos that we're talking about. We're talking about Arbitrum, Metis, etc. So it's zero knowledge rollups and optimistic rollups. So in this discussion, we assume that Ethereum, is our trusted blockchain, and we put all our trust in Ethereum. What about other layer ones? Do you think they might survive, or?
Yeah, there is room for more than one thing. This is a great big wide world, and that's something that crypto's really shown me as I travel around to conference. There's so many localized layer ones that have massive support in their region, like Icon in South Korea or Tezos in France and Israel. There's so many people building on these things. Tezos is another interesting use case because of its on-chain governance. That's really what made it special, from its very inception. And maybe you don't want to have something as critical as a house deed or a government constitution on Ethereum, which could be forked. And then now you have two copies and a dispute and all this other stuff. Tezos, on the other hand, cannot be forked. It's only going to have one copy of whatever is in that block until the end of time. So for things that are super, super critical like that, it might make sense to use a layer one like that. And then there's other things that are written in completely different languages. So maybe you don't want to write in Solidity, you want to write in Rust, and then you can use Near and their sharding, which is going to look similar to ETH 2.0. So there's really something out there for everybody in every use case, in my opinion.
I think what we're talking about now is really Alice in Wonderland for a new user who just coming into blockchain and thinking, all right, I'll just open a wallet on Coinbase, etc., buy some tokens, and here we are. We're talking about various ecosystem, bridges, another layer twos, etc. So perhaps we do need much more helping hands, much more education and openness. Although what's happening in the market sometimes might scare people away. So I'm a little bit conscious and worried about this, but things will be fine. As in the traditional financial systems, we did have crashes, like 2008, the Lehman crash, and things continue to go well and develop. What are you most excited about from application perspective? Is it banking the unbanked, or creating new financial tools, or is it gaming?
Yeah, I think banking the unbanked is one of the use cases that originally got me into crypto, and a lot of my own personal investments are in that sector. Just traveling to Brazil for the first time last year, I learned that the average person can't take a loan out for anything, whether it's to buy a house or support a business through a pandemic. There's just no options there. They don't have a credit system that works. And the banks are either corrupt or they're too scared to lose money. There's no trust between institutions and citizens in a lot of these countries. So if you can have a DeFi application where it's lending to people in their native currency in some of these emerging markets. I mean, Brazil's not even an emerging market. This is a first world country with like the 8th largest population in GDP. And it's projected to grow to the 6th largest in like the next 20 years. How can you be a top 10 country and not be able to take a business loan?
Right.
It's absolutely absurd. But this is something that we can really fix in DeFi. And it doesn't take a lot. We've already built compound finance. There's all kinds of other really low cost networks that are layer 2s like Boba, like Fuse, that can simply localize themselves in language, in currency, and create these rails for people. And if you start tokenizing real estate, I mean, you can even take out a mortgage on a property you already own for a loan. And the beautiful thing about DeFi is you don't have these, draconian measures where, if your payment's, late, we take your house. They can take a lifetime to pay this thing back because it's a protocol on the other end, not some banker who needs to pad profits for his shareholders.
Right. Well, what you mentioned, this is why Latin America is one of the fastest growing crypto markets in the world. And they're starting with education. There are lots of events, as you probably noticed yourself, in Brazil, and even the government leaders and politicians in the Caribbean and Latin American region. They're meeting and discussing something we probably don't know about, but it's very exciting where we're going. So if we would have this conversation 5 years and 10 years from now on, the ecosystem will be definitely totally different.
Yeah.
So my advice would be to get educated and listen to Aaron's Crypto 101 podcast. What would be your advice for anyone that is new to crypto, let's say?
We all kind of get in this space when someone kind of told us we can get rich quick. We either heard of Doge or Shiba, and those are kind of like the gateway drugs of crypto, or XRP. That brings a lot of people and interest into this space. But once you get here, really start doing your own research, asking your own questions, and really realize that as an investor, you need to do a lot of research before you put your money into the table. And think about risk management, which is something that the average person never thinks about. We buy a lottery ticket knowing way greater than 99.99% chance that it's going to go to zero. Crypto has slightly better odds. Slightly better odds, again, I would say, than, playing craps, which is what I love to do. And that's kind of the philosophy that I got in when I first started. I said, well, I'm going to not play craps anymore. I'm going to take that $100 that I would usually put on the craps table. I'm going to put it in this coin after reading its white paper and learning about its team and stuff and saying, maybe this is a better bet. So I entered this space as a gambler. But the more I learned about the potential, I realized this is really humanity's chance at true freedom. The first time in human history that we've been able to get out from economic slavery from the central banking cartel. There are huge stakes at play here. And we don't have to be technical to learn how to do it. I can't code worth anything, but I'm willing to go places and talk to people and try and digest the technical information I've learned for the average person. And that's what our podcast is all about, is trying to deliver the 101 of all this brand new technology that keeps growing at a crazy pace.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Would you have anything to add before we embark on the Consensus 2022 again?
I would also say you're not too late. You're still very early, both to make money, both to learn. There is a ton of room left to grow in this space. We're still very much in its infancy. A lot of founders that are a little bit grayer in the hair will tell me this reminds them of the early days of the internet. And it took the internet about 30 years just to get to where most people had a cable modem or DSL in their house. So it's still extremely early in crypto. And also diversify. Diversify your risk. Don't believe in any one person or any one project, because 99% of things in crypto do go to zero eventually. There's something bigger, better, faster that comes along, or the founders leave to build a new idea. So don't hedge your bets on or don't hedge your future on any one thing. Diversify, continue to, and make sure you have a sell target. sorry, I'm keeping, there's a lot of stuff I want to
Of
explain.
course.
Have a sell target to cash out. Don't just hold forever. You need to have investment goals in mind, whether it's buying a house or retirement or putting your kids through college. Have several stacked goals, do the math on it. And when your holdings hit, sell. Don't let your greed take over, because that's when you're going to get the rug pulled out from under you. Sell, take profits, and don't be apologetic for anything.
That was great. Thank you very much, Aaron. Enjoyed our discussion.
Me too. Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
us on.